I'm at the Laugh Out Loud, or LOL hostel, which you can see there. We're going to follow where it says Via Crispi, which is where the hostel is. We're going to go to the right, down to that turnabout, and then we'll be going north and then northwest up to the Archaeological Park. So that's our plan for the beginning of today. I don't know what this temple site was yet, but it's obviously a temple site. I think we enter formally down here. Exactly know where I'm going. I just wanted to avoid the tours groups that clog everything up with not only their persons and their physical clogging, but their noise. We'll be wandering into the area that I just videoed with the large cave. This obelisk was or is, I don't know. I haven't a clue, except it's a kind of a pretty area. It is interesting to look at those rocks, or those rock faces up there, and see how they've been slotted for some reason. This is a porous limestone, so as you can see just from looking at it, so pretty easy to carve it. Looks like a large grotto there. This is the Grotta di Cordara, and you can see that it's been pretty well finished off. What the story is behind it, don't know. Roar of tourist groups. For the benefit of all of the tour groups and individuals who speak English that come here, everything is in Italian. This is the Orecchio di Dionisi, something or other of Dionysus. We begin to see into it. It's a high, well carved. Looks like they've done some work on the left side. Goes back in quite a ways. It's probably a particular shrine area. I think they're singing their national anthem or something. Although I kind of recognize the tune. And a man traveling in the old way with his suit on. So easily to work. Any opportunity was one for another shrine, probably for all ages. If you wish to research it, you can find out more. An opportunity for a walkway through here. This is the area we're just in. We're going to enter the Greek theater. Wandering a little bit of the periphery of the theater, just to hold off from the tourists. But this is obviously an old stairway, but also to the left probably platforms for some kind of iconography like statues or whatever. Just looking down into that grotto section. And notice those square holes over there on that wall. Some may be caves, some may have been shrines. But some were buildings, as you can see. It's probably the back area of the theater at the top. This may be something akin to that. What was once on this pedestal, who knows? Other than that curious structure. It probably represents the limits of the theater. I don't know what I mean by that. Whether the seating went on up beyond that stairs or not, I don't know. This is now covered in wood, not as a permanent thing, but because we're about ready to enter their Greek theater festival period, when they will actually put on the plays that were played here several thousand years ago. Seating platforms. They don't look like what we're used to, although what we're looking at down here does. And that's probably what we would see underneath all of this flooring. So no big surprise since we've seen theaters before. What this flat area was for, I don't know, unless it held special chairs. Except that it's quite a ways away from the action, so that doesn't seem logical. Wonder what this protrusion is here with the little hole in it. The holes that go in here, they may have held something like railings. More of the same. Here it looks like a stairway, but not really, because it isn't continuous. So who knows what was in these slots that we see here? Were they in the day, or was it something added later? Looks like these were cut out at a later date because they're smooth, finished, more smooth and finished surfaces. We just have to try to imagine what stood on these rock faces and surfaces. These cavities may have been used for. This is interesting because water tumbling out of here, and I know there's a lot of water tumbling out of a cave to my left. But the way this looks cut in the back, it was a shrine of some sort. Well cut out room with a platform in it. Could this have been a tomb of some sort? Hard to tell. But the penchant for exploiting water in religious contexts is this certainly has that appearance. It's an impressive bunch of water running out from the top of a hill. And notice these grooves up on top. Would they have held like a roof-like or a platform system, maybe? Now there's a groove right there running into this square cavity and running out. So what did it perform as a function? Obviously a shrine location, but notice that hole there. Could that have brought water into this spot somehow at some point in time? Who knows? And more caverns cut out, or more rooms, looking very much like either tombs or some kind of... I'm standing just so you can see this large platform, but notice that there's a drainage line right there. This looks like a walkway, and this wall has a great number of indentations. Would they have held plaques, for example, commemorating burials or achievements at the theater? I don't know. Like there was a stairway that coursed up that face a bit, or a walkway or a road that went somewhere, again filled with these niches and almost little cavelets, if you will. But I think one of the telling things is that this is a road cut out through this depth. Remember, it's pretty soft limestone, and everything you cut out you could probably use. But here are ruts for vehicles. Now, what would be interesting to know is to measure the distances between this first and third and the second and fourth, to see if there's any difference, or does it just reflect that when one set got too deep they started shifting over a bit so the bottoms of their wagons wouldn't rub on the center portion. But even looking at the center portion, I seem to sense an allusion to the Oregon Trail center shallow rut from people walking in it as opposed to the wheels of the wagon. See, this was a roadway cut out. Notice how deep the ruts are there. We course along this wall a very large cave cut out, but all the surfaces have been worked in this drain little ditch, if you will, to take water away from this surface, and maybe one right there. There are remains of some other building. Whether it was a temple or not, we don't know. That's a pretty substantial wall of stone, usually for an exterior wall. It's interesting to try to fathom what little details were for, like what is this area cut out here for, looking like a stairway but not one, obviously. And this little trench here, was it just simply a support for a monument like a statue or whatever? And this area here that seems to gather like a road intersection to that one spot there, was it a stairway that was there coming up? Looked at from the other direction, just giving access to that wide courtyard up there, or the steps right here down into the theater, which is right below us. Did seats come up this far? It doesn't look like it. This modern walkway somehow replicate the same position of the original entry into the theater. Look like broad steps down into this part of the theater. You notice there, it looks like a set of steps going up there for somehow. Whether they put that column base there or whether it's always been there is an interesting question. But look at the pretty good sized stones here. Remember, they're made out of the soft rock. At the other side that I was on, it could be original, but who knows? They also look like it could be just made out of cement. Looks like when tourists clog up the whole goddamn thing. This magnificent tree. I'm standing about 3/5 of the way from the bottom of the tree. As I look at this tree, now I'm going to pan down through its trunk so you can see what an amazing structure this is. Is that incredible or what? Notice the supporting trunks that come down to the ground. That's got to be one of the most unique forms of adaptation. This is an interesting sculpture, if you can make it out, a man inverted, falling, and I think what the word on the left says is Prometheus, after he touched, that was Icarius. So I don't know how this relates to Prometheus, I'd have to look at that legend. We are now in the Archaeological Park, and we're not in it, we're outside of it. We're up near 32, just about ready to go around that point, if you will. And we're looking, I'll show you now, the end of that, looking back into the park. The end right there. Notice how worked it is. It must have been a incredible site with various kinds of monuments strewn across it and plaques. And that's that canyon narrowed down to this point. But notice everything is worked. Correct in that all of that we've been looking at in the way of these niches, caves, etc., is the necropolis, both Greek and Roman, of this area. And this purportedly, this large entryway here, I think with the tropanium over the top of it, is referred to as Archimedes' tomb, but I seriously doubt it is. But you'd have to go on the internet and read the history. So just imagine when this was covered, just like a cemetery today would be covered with all the different kinds of monuments. And those caves are all that's left of the family crypts, if you will, that we've seen in various states of disintegration. All closed off to the public in an effort to reduce effort, costs, increase profit. But you notice that little chunk of column, and you can see what looks like at the beginning on the sides of those tombs at the bottom of that tomb right there. And I'll get in a little bit closer here. You can see the remnant of columns that have been carved into the stone. On the whole, this entire site is not worth 10 euro because you don't see anything. The Roman theater is blocked off in total. You can't even get to look at what may be still visible. The theater is not that impressive even when it's not covered with wood. The cave of Dionysius, the one that's supposed to be ear-shaped, I don't know where that name came from. It'd be interesting to see who came up with it and when. And this area here is free to look at, but it's closed off, which is fine because there's not really that much for the average person to see. We're done with this archaeological park area. I'm going to wander to the right past 25, which is the Archaeological Museum, and just see if I can find number 24, which is an older church, just as a point to be searching for it to get me to travel through there. And then I'll go right down to the waterfront, then down along the waterfront traveling southwest till I get to Corso Umberto, and then we'll go on to the pretty island of Ortiga, which is actually the very beautiful part of this whole city, I think. Certainly a striking and imaginative design. More like you'd expect to see at NASA Space Center. I wonder is, how did they build it? Did they make each of those wings and then stand them in place, or how? Looks like it is the Basilica Santuario, Madonna, della, Lacrime, the layout of it. It's interesting. Here you go down to enter in. Oops. And it's built over the ruins of an earlier church, I'm sure. That may be an old crypt there. Notice how they achieved their side chapels. These are probably votives. Fortunately, it's already suffering water damage. Notice how modernistic this is. What a mix it is, apparently, of modern people, even a hint of modern hairstyles, perhaps, and yet old. Kind of looks like everything was built in place. Were built out of titanium. You could well imagine that from this perspective it looks like it's ready to take off to the stars. I think this is the frontal view. I wonder what their parish numbers are. Outside the church, some more ruins, undescribed, probably because underneath much of this area lie ruins of some sort. There's an old water fountain just outside the church, but still on its grounds, which are huge. And this is a statue of Santa Lucia, and that may be the church I'm going to now, the old church, St. Lucy. Interesting dead water feature outside what I think is the Stadio something or other, and with unerring intuition, which also means having been lost and by sheer luck stumbling on St. Lucy, I think. Old St. Lucy. You wonder if that rose round window once had beautiful stained glass. But look at the lovely colonnade system. And then I don't know if this is a baptistry or what across the street. I'm just pulling that out of thin air. But it looks like down here a very lovely park. So we'll walk down through there, maybe even find a cafe for a soda water. My water and my hypocrisy roll, I guess you call it, with chocolate in it. From that little bar, Patisserie Galatiera. And I'm going to sit in the park here for a few minutes. It's nice and shady. And then we'll go on down to the waterfront. Now I am finally down to the water. And I will work myself to the right. And I think eventually I'll be going across the bridge to the left over onto what I think that is the island, or Ortiga. It's fun to be down to a waterfront. I've always enjoyed it. Water fountain. Locations like this, if you have to live in a city, this is where you should be living. These look like small commercial fishermen. Notice that chrome-like shaft for winding up their little net, I assume. The water does take its toll if you don't maintain it. 1 out of 4 buildings. Here are a trio or 4 cute little, I think, sailing boats. Whether they're for tourists or not, I don't know. Well, these all have the same design on them. Those boat owners of the boats just sit here, awaiting the fulfillment of dreams. Following every little route I can that keeps me as close to the water as I can. Whether I'll be able to get out of here or not, I don't know. We'll find out soon enough. Substantial rocks suggest it once had a nice purpose, if not an antique purpose. Little critters down there. Oh, there's fish in that swill. Looks like a back harbor for small boats. This fortress-like design element on this wall. Old iron rings. Well, they still do hold some boats in place. A speedboat that was modified. Looks like someone's trying to strip it down and reuse it. So I've come to a obstacle. Guess I go down here to the right, walk across that bridge, which may take me onto the island. That may be Ortiga Island, if that's how you say it. Down here somewhere is where we are, where there's an inlet. Now it could be right where you see this kind of L, reverse L, the bottom part of the L quite thick, right on the edge of the circle. That could be where we're at. So that'll be our bridge, but not our main bridge, and I'll walk around the island, I guess, and then wander back and forth through it. Looks like we tie into this bridge, and this isn't the main bridge, I'm pretty sure, because you can almost see over there where that big ship is. This may be a double set of bridges right here. It's from over there that we've walked along the left side and then come up that left side of that channel, and now we're just about over the bridge. And I'll just whimsically walk about down this main drag at first, and then probably do a circumvention of the island. Circumnavigation. This old tree is held together with steel bands. Reminds me of the corset type things that women used to wear. Mercato, which is the morning market. Don't know if there's anything left inside. Shouldn't be by now. Be the ruins of an old cathedral. This is actually the Temple of Apollo from the 7th century BC. Old fountain, and those archways probably initially did not have that fill-in with those big doors. They were probably just open for individual stalls. Don't know if this is used anymore or not. It doesn't look like it. There's not much debris around. Look at the outside of it. Now the rest of this is probably Just the regular stuff that can be sold, and it can stay here most of the day until the tourists go at least. Something cooking that smells very good. Got lots of groceries here. If I can find peas, I think I'll buy some. Just getting tired of not being able to buy something. Like one of those. Love the tomatoes, eh? Those look good. Pretty much on the outskirts. I'll work my way around this island, and then when I'm done, I'll come back and see if I can still buy something. Walking the narrow back streets. I'll leave the camera on as I walk. Maybe it won't be too disturbing, but you'll get a feel for what it's like. This is all done in tile. Nice building, simple for its context. It doesn't appear to be any place to park your vehicles. Street curves around a bit, following its ancient path, no doubt. Remember the day when these were important people and important houses. Courtyard for a couple of different homes, including the ones we see here. Just unintentionally ended up back at Apollo's temple, but that's good. Seventh century. Just standing outside someone's home.
لا ما بقيش عندي قناة ديال الحب ما بقيش ندير لها الحب ندير لها درت لها فرماجينو ندير لها الحب.
Imagine if that were music we're playing back in the day. Beautiful back streets in here, a small street through this archway back into that family's courtyard. Yeah, oval windows with a twist. There's some main drag, but we'll stay away from it for a while. Get the doors off, just hanging there. Notice the supports to keep the walls together. Inside this house, a man just came down from here. Either he lives or works up there. There was some reference to tourism. So maybe this is an office for tourists. Power, so you don't have to pedal it all the time. And another simple, probably older church. Del Carmine. Right across from that, another church. I just wandered down here. They're two young Mormon fellows, about a year into their 2 years from California. An older house, but we can poke inside and see, because they haven't made a lot of major changes to it, it doesn't look like. Not the impressive houses that we have seen on occasion, but they were probably pretty well off. Quite possible those stairway in that part of the building beyond really wasn't here. Was added afterward, and that all might have been a nice courtyard back in there. Lovely building that looks like it's been restored, or is in the process. The outside has been. The inside still looks gutted. This is completely rebuilt here. Maybe that one over there is original. Looks like many of these buildings either have been or are about to be at least restored on the outside. Maybe there's some state or local financial support for this effort. A nicely done building. You wonder if those little red acorns were original. They're certainly bright and shiny now. You also notice we're approaching the water, so these properties should, by definition, be more valuable. I've walked pretty much through the center of town, or of the island. I came from probably right over there. Notice the church behind us that we were at earlier today. I'll just pan from here. It was somewhere along this coast that Archimedes almost single-handedly with his war machines was able to frustrate the Roman army, or navy rather, for some considerable time. Principally was the great hooks that he had, so that when the Romans tried to land their boats, he had great grappling hooks that went out attached to the boat, and then they lifted the boat up and it basically turned it over, killing everybody on board. Pretty effective. The generals, or the commander, ordered his people not to kill Archimedes, and some fool did. I wonder if they cut these stones specifically to throw in as a breakwater, or whether these are some monument now lost to history. Walk further up that way and then cut back through the island again just to see what we see. Looking back where we stood a few minutes ago, and now pan around this way. Pretty building. All of this area should at some point in time develop out into tourism and be actually quite well restored. I don't know how old these walls are, and if they are even old, but it was somewhere in here that I believe Archimedes' machines were positioned under where these stones came from, because you can see that they all have, or most of them have, big slots in them, so they were used for something, somewhere. Maybe an abandoned bridge or something. This building's been completely restored, probably now a hotel, and that building over there either is or was recently restored. Papyrus Museum. Now we'll do a transect through the town and see what we may see. Apparently it's a museum of pubs. We'll wander down here. That I occasionally peer into seem simple. Looking through the door, a little kitchen table, people sitting around it, eating lunch. Nothing looks extravagant at all, or even well done for that matter. Just quite simple. We've approached a tiny little square. Church, surprise, and having looked down to my left a moment ago, still another. We will go that way. Pretty street with advertisements for something, pizzeria. Everything's for rent here. They're a wooden dome. You wonder if the earlier one collapsed. I noticed no embellishments at all. Just these massive pillars. Well, they're embellishments, but not painted. City of detail here, as a color scheme, is minimalist gold and black trim on white. Pretty gray columns, and probably above me is the choir. Interesting. You wonder if it's suggesting that there used to be a crypt down there. Where you go, the remnant of a church. I thought from down there was the top, the pediment of this church, I think. I wonder why so many churches. Is it really because it's not surprising if you factor in the amount of time span that we're looking at with all of the churches? Quiet little streets with the foliage dripping off the sides of the buildings that are intriguing. Father making his rounds in the neighborhood. Block on this church that we'll go around to the front to look at. It's interesting, you wonder if this part to the right was added, like that church we saw in Catania, or up this main street, or at least large. Look in this little, what looks like a little square. I think that's a church. Yes, it is. Surprise. San Salvador. Here, a rather large square and dramatic sculpture fountain in the Archimedes PIazza. But they've cracked it up with buildings like that. I think that's Diana. Must be pretty when the fountain's going. And once in a while it does. There's water about.